Hello, my name is John Williams, and the person I have selected today for my informative speech is Leonidas I, king of Sparta, in around 450 BC. Many of you may know of him from the Battle of Thermopylae, which was depicted in the movie 300, which came out in the early 2000s. And it is about 300 Spartans and about 6,000 other Greek volunteers to fight versus 300,000 Persians. Now you have to understand, at this time, Persia's army of about 300,000 soldiers was the biggest the world has ever seen. They had beasts of nations, which were just giant animals like elephants and lions and stuff like that. And their king Xerxes was looked at as a god. So that's why their men fought so hard. And I've done my research on Leonidas and the outnumbered Greeks in their sacrifice for the rest of Greece. Leonidas I of Sparta led an alliance of Greek city-states to defend Greece from the Persian king Xerxes and his monstrous army. And today we will discuss Leonidas I before the battle, during his infamous battle, and the aftermath of the battle of the 300 Spartans. So first and foremost, we will begin with who Leonidas I was before the battle. So to understand Leonidas, you have to understand who came before him. Leonidas was the third eldest son of his father, who was reigned king before. And his oldest brother died in war. His second oldest brother died under mysterious circumstances. Some think it's suicide, others think foul play was involved. But nevertheless, Leonidas was crowned king after his second oldest brother got killed. Since a young child, just like all other Spartan males, Leonidas was bred mentally and physically to become a hoplite soldier. A hoplite soldier or hoplite warrior were the most elite warriors in all of Greece. They were Spartans. They carried a spear around a circular shield, and their battle plans and military strategies were impeccable. When you watch the movie 300, when you see them get in the battle lines, and there's 300 of them versus thousands of oncoming soldiers, that's the Spartan technique. That's what being a hoplite warrior is. And just as important as the physical, it's the mental. So according to Herodotus, a Greek scholar, one of the first historians probably ever in history, and he is the one who we have all these accounts from. According to him, Leonidas would have been in his 60s by the time the Battle of Thermopylae came to be, and he was undoubtedly an expert and experienced military commander by this time. So now that we know a little bit about Leonidas' background information, let's get into the war. So this battle lasted 3 days, and it is the most well-known battle in all of the Greco-Persian wars. It was 300 Spartans, 6,000 other Greeks who volunteered versus about 300 plus Persians. Leonidas made sure that all 300 of his Spartans had sons that survived them, so that in the worst case scenario where they died in battle, they had sons that would survive them and be able to continue on their family legacy. The Spartans dominated the first 2 days of war. It wasn't close. Their military strategies, their knowledge of the canyon they were in, it was just too much for the Persians. The Persians had never seen an army so disciplined like the Spartans. The Persians sent wave after wave after wave of soldiers to fight them. At first, they just sent like slaves and stuff like that to fight them. Slowly but surely, after the first 2 days of the Spartans just destroying them, King Xerxes sent what he called the Immortals, or otherwise known as the king's bodyguards. And they wore these crazy masks, and they were just like the Spartans almost, in terms of physically just being dominant on the battlefield. But they weren't Spartans, and they didn't have the discipline nor the mental toughness or strategy to beat the Spartans. So the Spartans wiped out almost 10,000 of their men. Unfortunately, by the third day, a Greek spy who worked for King Xerxes, discovered a way to flank the Spartans in the canyon. With the Spartans finding out a little bit later, King Leonidas sent home about 5,000 to 6,000 of those Greek volunteers who came to not only save themselves, but to also tell everybody back in Sparta and Greece the story of the 300 Spartans. So King Leonidas kept 300 Spartans and about 1,000 of the other Greeks, and they remained there for the third day of battle, where they knew it would probably be their last day. So long story short, they accepted the fact they were going to die and went out there and still, I don't know if performed is the right word, but they still went out there and sacrificed themselves for the greater good of the country and the world. So Leonidas and his men died that day, but because of their death, it gave Greece the time and morale to not only fight back against King Xerxes, but ultimately win. So, to sum it up, now we're going to the aftermath of the war. Leonidas and the 300 sacrifice is one of the greatest examples in history of laying down one's life, and in this case, hundreds of lives, for the greater good of a person or a country as a whole. Him and the 300 Spartans sacrifice gave the morale boost and time to the rest of Greece so that they could recuperate and prepare for King Xerxes' army. And although this battle was technically a loss for the Greeks, it gave the rest of Greece, I already said that shit, I'm sorry. The Greeks ultimately defeated the Persians in the Greco-Persian War, and a big thanks is to Leonidas I and his 300. To this day, King Leonidas' story just lives on and inspires many. And as many of you may have seen, the movie 300 depicts his story and the rest of the 300's ultimate sacrifice. So King Leonidas is one of the greatest warriors in history for his bravery, courage, and ultimate sacrifice, and which he showed previous to the war, during, and his legacy that it lives on forever. Leonidas is a man who inspires me to never back down from anything, and when the going gets tough, to be willing to die behind whatever you stand for. His sacrifice paved way for not only the rest of Greece and Sparta to continue their empire, but it inspired military commanders and just people in general to this day to never be scared and to never back down, no matter what situation you're in. Thank you.
That was good.
It was not good.